Hello and welcome to the Get Creative Podcast, the podcast for creatives by creatives. I'm Evan Schmidt, and my guest today is Dan Foytik. He's the owner of Ninth Story Studios, and he's also the host and producer of the podcast Wicked Library and The Lit, among many others. Hey Dan, thanks for coming on the show today. So tell the world who you are.
Well, I consider myself a storyteller first and foremost. I'm a lover of story and storytelling. So I guess I come to it first as a reader and then a writer and then just a lover of story. I've spent a lot of time going to different storytelling festivals and just listening to a lot of oral storytelling because it fascinates me. It's, I think, one of the truest and most visceral forms of storytelling. I mean, it's probably the original. If you want to go back to oral storytelling and cave painting, it's probably one of the two. But yeah, so I guess that's kind of my bag is I enjoy story. I enjoy telling stories. I enjoy writing them. That's what it's all about for me.
Nice. So what comes to mind when you think about one of the most important lessons that you've learned?
I think the most important lesson that I've learned over the course of getting involved in writing and podcasting and storytelling and doing all of this was not to say yes to everything. I think in the beginning, when you get really excited about something and you're passionate about it, you want to say yes to every opportunity to do it and to collaborate and to experience all the different facets of it. And it very quickly becomes overbearing to the point where it's hard to keep your deadlines. It's hard to deliver quality. And it becomes a balance of, do I steal time from this or steal time from that? I don't know if you've ever found yourself in that situation, but it's in the beginning, I think a lot of us, when we're excited about creating new things, we want to say yes to everything because there's so much out there that is fascinating, or you hear something and it inspires you to do something yourself. And you want those opportunities. You want to get out there. You want to do this stuff. But you eventually have to get to a point where you have to say no to things and you have to be selective. And I think people respect that more. Like, I mean, I have gone back to people and said, I know we talked a little bit about doing this, but with my schedule right now, it's just not going to work out. I can recommend this, that, or the other thing, or maybe we can delay until then. But I've gotten finally to a point now where I don't take on more than I can handle, as tempting as it is to say yes to things. Sometimes you have to say no to be able to say yes to the things you want to whenever the really important things come along, if that makes sense.
100%, and I totally agree. And it sparked a follow-up question in my head. Have you ever regretted any time that you've said no to something?
You can spend a lot of time dwelling on, I'm saying no to this. Am I going to regret it in the future? And I said no to this, and so far, not really, but I'm sure that I'm going to pass on something that I should have said yes to, or said no to something that could have been an opportunity, or you never know. I mean, people take their projects very personally. You say no to something, that person may never want to work with you again. But I think that's the risk that you have to take because you have to give the attention to the things that are really important to you.
I love that insight. I've never thought of that side before, and I'm glad the question came up so that I could get your opinion on it.
Yeah.
Because there's always like the fear of missing out.
Absolutely. So. I mean, we only have so much time on this planet, and there's so much you can do. We're never going to be able to do it all. We just have to pick and choose and try to pick the things that feel the best to us.
Nice. So we'll segue into what are some of the things you picked that you're working on now?
Well, I have two of the things that take up most of my time. I have a very collaborative project called The Wicked Library, which is a horror-themed podcast. And I took that over from a gentleman who created that, and after doing it for 5 seasons, he wanted to focus more on his writing and doing other things, so he asked me to step in. And it's basically taking short stories that are written by independent authors and transforming those into audio drama, or enhanced audiobooks, some people call them. Essentially what we do is we take the story, and when I first started, it was just narration, and, I played all the characters and like a standard audiobook that you would hear. And the one thing that we always did was we added music behind. So I do work with some composers that do custom music for it. And as we've grown and gotten a bigger fan base and gotten a little bit of success on Patreon, we've been able to take the money and invest it back in the shows. So now I do work with a lot of different voice actors that come in and play the parts. And similar to that, I do another podcast called The Lift, which is my creation along with my good friend Cynthia Lohman. And it's more of a Twilight Zone type feel, where the Wicked Library is a little bit darker. This is more of a Twilight Zone type vibe. It gets dark at times, but not quite as dark. And those are stories that I write, my friend Cindy writes, and we have kind of a stable of authors that we invite to write for the show. Whereas the Wicked Library is kind of open submissions, and we pick lots of different folks. So far, The Lift has just been invitation only.
Nice. So where can people start binging on both of these shows and the other ones?
Well, they're out there everywhere. They're in TuneIn, Stitcher, iTunes, every place where people subscribe to podcasts. If you use a podcatcher, the feeds are available. But kind of my nexus for everything is Ninth Story Studios, and that's at ninthstory.com. Links to all the podcasts are there. And as I'm starting to get into doing some audio recording for authors of, well, put it this way, as I'm starting to get into doing some straight narration for regular books and that sort of thing, I'm going to be linking from that as well. But those are the two projects that, are a big collaboration with a lot of people. So people that like story can find a lot of different authors and really just have a good time listening.
Nice. Well, and those links will be in the show notes as well, so that people can't mince the words. So, Dan, thanks for coming on the show today and getting creative with me. I love the shows, and thanks for your time today.
No, it was my pleasure, and look forward to talking to you again in the future.
That's it for another episode of Get Creative. You can find more information about my guest in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe so that you get the next episode in your sleep, and please give the show a review. For more information about me, go to evanschmidt.com, follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn, and watch my vlog on YouTube where I share lessons that I've learned. Thank you for listening. Now go get creative.